Today on review we are looking at Uncharted 3 for the PlayStation 3. Here we are a couple years later after the events of Uncharted 2. The story pretty much continued from where we left off before, and here we are now looking into the necklace that Drake been wearing pretty much from the beginning of this whole saga. Ended up having clues on how to find a land pretty much called the Atlantic of the Sands. And like always, Drake pretty much set out on their adventure to find it for treasure that may or may not be there. And we have some interesting villains this time around coming into play. And not exactly mythical villains so much or anything dramatic. It's simply just an old woman who idolizes and analyzes stuff about people. And you get very much I don't really want to say to the extreme like a Batman villain, but you will see some sense of like the guild quo happening here and somewhat in areas. But the story itself, it pretty much go between 20 chapters from beginning to end, roughly around 8 hours. But in this story, the treasure is not exactly the most important thing, since this seemed to be more of a story about Drake himself and his mental health when it comes to why do he do that to the people he loves. And this is any more included with some of the backstory of playing Drake as a young boy, finding out how he met his friends, and overall just giving it great backstory into the character. But sadly, the overall story is not exactly the most memorable thing, and it do have its peaks and valleys. It's a perfect roller coaster ride from beginning to end. It do not have any pacing issue. It's just the overall sort material of this, and not as memorable as Uncharted 2. The gameplay itself had pretty much not much have changed here. It's platforming and gunning. The gunning mechanics feel a little bit better this time around, since it seemed to be a little more accurate than it had been in the past. And now, when people throw grenades at you, you can do a little mini game which it pretty much put triangle in a certain amount of time to throw a grenade back at them. But the AI of the people you fight is not exactly the smartest, and it seemed a lot more focused on hand-to-hand combat this time around. And it pretty much feels very similar to how Batman handled the combat system. The only difference is you see like 6 animations over and over again. And it do not help that you pretty much fighting like 10 enemies over and over again, and not really much variety when it comes to the actual hand-to-hand or the actual villains you fight in general. And then later on, pretty much near the end of the game here, you will run into the kill boxes that is extremely frustrating and take many times bet to die a lot in these scenarios near the end. Because it just seemed very unfair, and AI seemed to went from being dumb to we're gonna kill you in one shot. But on the opposite side of that, now it no longer takes 20 to 30 rounds to drop someone. You can drop people fairly quickly that time around. So I guess it's kind of up and down there. Maybe by the time that Uncharted come around, they will actually get it kind of balanced out a little bit better. But overall, Uncharted 3, it cannot be met by anyone who got a PlayStation 3. And if you really want to see more insightful into the character you have already grown and loved, buy it right away. But overall, I give Uncharted 3 a 4 out of 5.
Think you can handle that?